Have you ever noticed how your internal clock just seems, well, broken? Why some memories feel like they literally just happened, while others from just last week feel like they're from a different era? Well, it's not random. It turns out your brain is playing a very specific and very fascinating trick on you, and once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere.
Okay, let's try a quick experiment. Think about a huge news story, maybe a big election or a global event from, say, 3 or 4 years ago. Got one? Now, how long ago does that actually feel? For a lot of us, it feels surprisingly recent, right? Like, there's no way it was that long ago. Just hang on to that feeling.
All right, now for part 2. Try to remember something really boring from last week. Like, what did you have for lunch last Tuesday? Or what was that one meeting about? All of a sudden, something that happened just a few days ago can feel incredibly far away, kind of foggy and distant. So what on earth is going on here?
Yeah, this weird push and pull isn't just you. It's not a random glitch in your brain. It is a predictable, well-documented pattern in how our memory tries, and kind of fails, to place events on a timeline.
And of course, psychologists have a perfect name for this. It's called the telescoping effect. And it's called that because our memory seems to shrink time, pulling things closer or pushing them away, kind of like a telescope plays with distance.
So here's the key thing to get. This effect isn't a one-way street. It actually works in two opposite directions. On one hand, it pulls those big, distant memories forward in time, making them feel closer than they are. But at the exact same time, it pushes recent, everyday memories backward, making them feel like they happened ages ago.
And this just lays it out perfectly. That nagging feeling that the 2020 election was basically just last year, that's forward telescoping in action. And that feeling that your boring meeting from last Tuesday was an eternity ago, yep, that's classic backward telescoping. It's this constant tug of war that completely messes with our sense of time.
So you might be wondering, is there a tipping point? Funny enough, research suggests there is, and it's right around this number, 3 years. An event that happened about 3 years ago is in this weird limbo, where it's just as likely to feel closer as it is to feel farther away. It's like the moment of maximum confusion for our internal calendar.
So why? Why does our brain even do this? Well, it's not really a bug. It's more of a feature. A mental shortcut that just has some really strange side effects. And psychologists have a few pretty cool models to explain what's going on.
This quote really gets to the heart of the first idea, which is called the accessibility hypothesis. The logic is actually super simple. Your brain uses a shortcut. If a memory is really vivid, packed with detail, and easy for you to access, your brain just assumes, hey, this must be recent. So those big, emotional, memorable events get yanked forward in time. Okay, next up you've got the conveyor belt model. Just picture your memories as boxes on a conveyor belt, all slowly moving away from you into the past. Every single day, a new box gets added. But here's the thing. What happens if you forget something? What if a box from, say, a few weeks ago just falls off the belt? Well, all the older boxes behind it suddenly shift forward to fill that gap, and that makes them seem more recent than they actually are. It's a great little visual for forward telescoping. And finally, there's the boundary model. This theory says we tend to group our memories into these mental containers that have clear start and end dates, like last summer's vacation or my freshman year of college. So when we try to remember something from the very beginning of that vacation, our memory tends to drift inward, toward the middle of the trip. And when we try to remember something from the very end, it also drifts inward. This causes errors in both directions, pushing recent events back and pulling distant events forward, but all within that specific box of time.
Now, this isn't just some fun psychological quirk to talk about. This stuff has serious, real-world consequences. This subtle little bias shapes everything from our legal system to marketing to how we feel about our own lives.
Seriously, think about it. The telescoping effect can totally skew marketing data about when you last bought something. It can distort public health surveys about all kinds of behaviors. It can even influence public opinion when it comes to the justice system. And, as we'll see, it might even affect how we feel about getting older. A really powerful and kind of chilling example comes from the justice system in the Netherlands. When a kidnapper named Ferdy Elsis was released from prison, there was a huge public outcry. To the public, it felt like he had just committed this awful crime a few years ago. But in reality, way more time had passed. Forward telescoping had warped the public's timeline, making a legally correct sentence feel totally unjustly short. It sparked a whole national debate.
And this bias messes up data constantly. You see it in surveys all the time. If someone asks you, how many times did you buy coffee in the last month, you're probably going to accidentally pull in a few purchases from just outside that time frame, which leads to over-reporting. And this happens with everything from market research to really serious stuff like surveys on crime or drug use.
You know how you often hear people say that life just seems to speed up as you get older? Well, the telescoping effect might be a big part of why that feels so true. As forward telescoping keeps pulling our distant past closer to us, the actual true passage of time can feel shockingly fast when we're suddenly reminded of the real date.
So, the big question is, are we just doomed to have this warped perception of time forever? Well, not entirely. The good news is, researchers have figured out some pretty practical ways to minimize the effect and help us see our own past a little more clearly.
And honestly, the strategies are surprisingly straightforward. First, you have to clearly define the time period you're asking about. So instead of saying in the last year, you'd say since last New Year's Day. Second, it helps to anchor your memories to other major life events, like birthdays or holidays, to create a more reliable timeline for yourself. And finally, asking more specific questions forces our brain to work harder and rely less on those lazy, faulty shortcuts.
But at the end of the day, the single most powerful tool we have is just awareness. Simply by knowing that the telescoping effect is a thing, you can become a much more critical thinker about your own memories and the timeline you've built inside your head.
And that leads to a really fascinating, kind of mind-bending final thought. Our memory of time is so flexible, so easily distorted by these little cognitive biases, it really makes you wonder. If our memory is this unreliable with something as basic as when, what other details about our own past might not be quite what we remember?